beautiful people, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Gianna Lian, and we're back with our monthly wrap up. I'm gonna be going through all the books that I read in September, and I'm gonna tell you guys what I basically recommend to you, because I feel like sometimes it's so hard to find recommendations or if some of the books are actually worth the hype. So that's what I'm here for. It was kind of a weird reading month. I know I've been saying that the past 4 reading wrap-ups, I want to say, but genuinely it has been. My reading taste is kind of all over the place. I feel like I'm trying new things, but then I'm trying other things, and I just don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm wanting to pick up half the time, so I'm just picking up random things. But we are gonna get into the stats because I feel like it was a good month books wise of like how many I picked up. Definitely better than the last month, let's just say that. So in total we read 8 books. Back on track. I'm pretty sure last month I read 6 and I was like, what happened here? Because I felt like I was reading like all month. Why did I only read 6 last month? So we read 8, and out of those we read 3 physical books, 3 Kindle Unlimited books, and we listened to 2 audiobooks. I'm starting this new habit where instead of jamming to my music when I drive, because yes, that's great all the time, but not as productive, I have been listening to audiobooks when I've been driving. So we got through 2 this month. And now we're gonna get right into my reviews, my ratings, my opinions, everything you need to know about all the books that I read in September. We first started off our month actually really well. I read Full Tilt by Emma Scott. This was a Kindle Unlimited recommendation that I actually found on TikTok. I've never heard of it before, and I was like, okay, this is kind of underrated. Don't know the author, don't know anything going on about this. So I was like, okay, cool. It's not too long. It's a duet, and I'm just gonna pick it up. I originally picked it up because I thought it was going to be a more emotional read, and let me tell you, I was definitely not wrong. If you are on my Patreons, which is always linked down below, by the way, they saw how emotionally broken I was after reading this book and some of the quotes that I shared with them. Oh my goodness, I'm just speechless. I'm so sad and heartbroken inside, and I rated this a 5 out of 5 stars. I just had to, you guys. I didn't think I was gonna get that emotionally connected to the characters in this, and just the whole plot in general of how Emma Scott really ripped your heart out by the end of this book. So with how I felt and with the fact that I'm still thinking about these characters and this book as a whole, it had to be a 5 stars. I don't want to explain too much about it because it is such a short book, so everything kind of just moves really quickly. But we follow Casey and Jonah, and they are complete opposite people. Jonah is actually suffering from cancer. He slowly knows in his heart that he doesn't have a lot of time left. You know that from the beginning. So he lives his life as everything needs to be routine, everything needs to go to plan. I just have to stay busy, I have to stay on track, blah blah blah. And he's actually an artist as well, which is kind of cool. And then Casey is the exact opposite. She's in the rocker lifestyle. She takes lots of risks in her life. She doesn't really care what happens to her. She lives on the edge. She's partying all the time. And so they're complete opposites. But then obviously their worlds collide. They meet each other and things just go down in history from there. Like I said, I was not expecting to get this emotionally invested into the characters. I feel like the opposites attract trope is kind of like hit or miss for me, but this one freaking ate. I ate it up so bad. And I don't think this book was too spicy. From what I'm remembering, it had a little bit of spice, but it wasn't over the top spice where it was like, oh my gosh, there's actually no connection here and it's all desire and physical attraction. Like, I feel like it was just perfect. Everything about this book was perfect. I genuinely think that this needs to blow up on BookTok. I think more people need to talk about it. I think it should at least be somewhat popular because I, like I said 1,000 times, was not expecting to absolutely fall in love with it. So this was the first book I read. Perfect start to the month. Obviously, I would 100,000,000,000% recommend it to you guys. And then I read Dishonestly Yours by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I've mentioned this book a few times to you guys now. It was in a reading vlog that I posted, but this one really surprised me. Obviously, it's Krista and Becca Ritchie's writing, so I knew I was going to really enjoy it, but starting a new series, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna live up to the Addicted/Calloway Sister series because that's, in my opinion, top tier perfection, but it didn't disappoint. I would also kind of recommend this to you guys as one of like the perfect fall recommendations that I could have for you because it's set in a fall timeline and it's also small town with a lot of mystery and chaos and gossip going on, like the small town secrets. If you want that, this is a series for you. I'm very excited to continue the series. I'm very excited to see what the other books have in store for the series. I know it's brand new, so I'm not too sure when the next books are gonna come out, but I know they are on their way because I did see it on Goodreads already. I did already check. But I feel like if you are a big fan of Krista and Becca Ritchie's writing, you don't really need to know what this book's about. Just go into it. You're still gonna get that amazing writing from them. You're gonna get the amazing characters, and you're gonna get the spice, obviously. I feel like Krista and Becca Ritchie are authors that have like some of the best spice in my my opinion, so that was absolutely perfect. But to give you a very, very vague description of this whole entire book is you have two families, but they're kind of family friends, and they're con artists. They con everyone as a family. It's been their lifestyle since the kids were young, so they grew up doing that, and that's kind of all they know. But the two best friends that kind of look to each other as sisters, they decide they want to get away from that, run away, start a new life, so they end up in a very small town trying to build a new life away from that. But obviously it's not that easy to just escape from that lifestyle. So there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of chaos that just end up happening, and some bad guys that show up that are kind of scary. Like, I remember I was kind of a little bit scared when I was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, they need to get away from these people, or oh, they're trying to hunt them down. Like, I don't want them to get caught. It was just really crazy. But small town, dark secrets, all those vibes. I would definitely recommend this to you guys. Oh, and I don't even think I gave you guys the rating. I think I forgot to give you guys the rating for this. I rated this 4 out of 5. I don't know why I completely just forgot to give you guys my rating. It was really good. I'm excited to continue the series. Then I listened to my first audiobook, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I obviously have the physical copy, but I felt like it sounded better to kind of listen to it as an audiobook. This was the first time that I listened to a memoir instead of actually reading it, and I really enjoyed doing that. So maybe if you are kind of iffy on memoirs, or you don't know if you're really gonna like them or not, try giving the audiobook version a try, because I feel like I got through it a lot faster and I felt a lot more connected to the person's life that we were talking about. But I did end up rating this at 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I feel like I learned so much from listening to Dolly Alderton's life and basically her experiences and her adventures of her 20s as a whole. Yes, it's based on everything she learned about love, but also everything she learned about herself in her 20s, everything she learned about other friendships and the people she's surrounded by in her 20s, and how you're gonna have people that come and go in your life, especially in your 20s. That's such a weird period of time of you growing up and finding yourself, that it's okay for the people that you have in your life when you're 19 and 20 to not be in your life when you're 30, you know, because there's so many people that are growing and expanding and outgrowing friends. That was one of the main things that I learned, if you can't tell, is that I learned that specifically, that it's okay for people to outgrow each other. That was such a long-winded explanation to you guys. Moral of the story is that I learned a lot through this book, but genuinely some of the things that Dolly Alderton was explaining, I couldn't tell if she was being serious or not. Some of the things just seemed so bizarre and not dramatic, but I feel like blown out of proportion, to the point where I was like, did this really happen? I just don't see this happening in real life. I was very confused at some point, so that was my only downfall, I'd say, about the book. And just because some of the things got a little bit repetitive, I felt like some of the things could have been brought to the point a lot faster. Like, we didn't need half the explanation that we did for some of the situations. Some of the things were just dragged on way too much. I don't know. I don't really have too many cons of this book. Like, I still would recommend it, and I still would tell you guys to pick it up because you do learn a lot. At least I did. But then again, I feel like it just didn't deserve a rating higher than 3.5. It's this weird feeling. Let me know if you guys get that too, where you genuinely like the book and you can't really say what you didn't like, but you don't see yourself rating it higher than 3.5 or even like a 4, you know? It was just a very, very weird feeling when I finished it, but I feel like if you think you're gonna learn a lot from it, then I'd give it a try. On Kindle Unlimited, we picked up Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This was actually my book club pick with my patrons this month. And if you guys are not new around here and you guys have been watching me for a while now, I've recently fallen in love with Freida McFadden books, to be honest. They're all on Kindle Unlimited, so whenever I'm feeling in that psychological thriller mood, or I want to have my jaw dropped, or I just want to binge a book and like sit there and really binge one, I always pick up Freida McFadden. So surprise, surprise, we have another Freida McFadden book. This one just wasn't my favorite though. I still rated it 4 out of 5 stars. It was still very enjoyable, and I still did not guess the ending of it. But because I've read a decent amount of her books at this point, I feel like it just wasn't my all-time favorite by her. But like, to be honest, 4 out of 5 stars is still a really good rating in my opinion. It just wasn't top tier in my books with her. And like I always say, I do like to go into Freida McFadden books completely blind, so I'm not gonna give you guys anything from this book, but you just need to know that it is pretty spooky. The setting is this big old house where a psychiatrist lived, and she kind of just disappeared randomly and left all of her belongings there. She left everything behind and she just kind of vanished. That's all you need to know. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I did indeed binge this one. I had so many theories going into it, and this time I genuinely thought like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm actually gonna catch her. This one seems like it's right in front of my face and it's very able to guess. I was wrong though. I did get kind of close though. I just wasn't 100% right in my guess, but I did kind of have some guesses on like who, and I was kind of right about it. But the day that I actually guess a Freida McFadden twist through and through 100%, that's the day that I will count as a victory. But then again, like really thinking about it, I don't know if that day is ever gonna come. And especially now that we are officially in spooky season and picking up the fall reads, I feel like this one is also kind of perfect because you have that dark, spooky aesthetic of living in an old house that almost feels abandoned in the middle of absolute nowhere. And you're also solving a mystery and just like that eerie mood as a whole. I don't know, I got spooky, scary vibes from it. And that's personally what I like to be reading in like the fall spooky season. So I would recommend this along with all other Freida McFadden books. Like if I haven't gotten my point across to you guys yet, Freida McFadden is definitely someone that I recommend to you guys for the fall season as a whole. Then I read Call It What You Want by Alyssa Derogatis, another one that is not really talked about, but I enjoyed it so freaking much. I honestly picked this one up in the first place because of the cover. I can't lie to you guys, like this is just a cover that screams me, something that I would definitely pick up / read. So with me picking it up, just knowing that, not knowing really anything about it or if it's something I genuinely am gonna like, rating it a 4.5 out of 5 stars after reading it is a total shock. This was honestly one of the only books on my TBR for September that I ended up reading, and the highest rated one that I read off my TBR. It was extremely short, so I did fly through it like really quickly, but I would say overall that it was the perfect length considering you are following a toxic relationship, you're following a lot of back and forth that goes on with the couple and the surrounding people in general. But with the length, if it was any longer, it would have just felt too repetitive or would have dragged on. So if you are looking for a toxic romance / campus romance as well, that is shorter, that you will hate some of the characters, but obviously that gets resolved like throughout the book, then I would recommend it to you guys. Also, while I was reading this the whole entire time, I swear, if you guys have read or heard of Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering, that was one of my favorite books in like 2022, 2023. I don't remember when I read it. This book reminds me of that one because of how similar they are. You're both dealing with a toxic romance, they're both dealing with a campus romance as well, but this one got more to the point in my opinion. The writing was a lot easier to read and like kind of mindless, and obviously it's shorter, so you still got the toxic vibe, but you didn't get that repetitive back and forthness going on in it. So if you like that book, I would highly recommend this one because it's not talked about and it kind of gives same vibes. I also feel like I just kind of enjoyed the characters in this one a lot better. Obviously they got extremely annoying at times, but that's what the point of the book is. You do have a toxic relationship, you're gonna get annoyed with the characters, but this one had a better outcome in my opinion, and I felt like just a lot of character growth as a whole from both the characters instead of just like one. Knowing me, I read a lot of toxic romances and I feel like one character always has more character development than the other, but this one I felt like it was pretty balanced, not completely, but more balanced than the other ones that I've read. So I would highly recommend you give this one a try. And I'm also curious to pick up more of Alyssa Derogatis's books because like I said, her writing flowed really well and definitely could be a new go-to by author. Then we read one brick of a book, Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is the first one in the Lakeside Billionaire series, I'm pretty sure. It's one of her newest series that she came out with, and I honestly was putting this book off for so long, you guys, because of the length. Like, come on, a 520 page romance, that's a little bit insane, that's a little bit absurd. I try to avoid those because in my brain, and this is just my opinion, I feel like a romance does not need to be over 500 pages. That is just absolutely insane. But to be completely honest with you guys, Lauren Asher is one of the only authors that I would give that chance to because I have read a complete series by her already that I absolutely love and adore. So I just knew I just had to bite the bullet and I had to give it a try. And I'm so happy that I did because I did rate this a 4 out of 5. I was gonna give it a 4.5, but with the other books that I've read by her, it just wasn't that good. It was good, but not that good, you know? You know what I'm trying to say? But besides me loving the couple in this, I feel like the whole town, Lake Wisteria, really carried the book for me, in my opinion. If you did read the Dreamland Billionaire series, and especially the last one, Final Offer, you are in the same setting as that book, and you do see Cal, and you do see, I don't remember her name, but his love interest basically. And that was just so special to me to have that little tiny piece of that series come into this book. I feel like that was so special, and it honestly was one of the best parts of the book. But getting, again, that small town vibe. I've been picking up so many small towns lately. I don't know what it is, but as you can see, I've really been enjoying them. Getting that whole little small town and like everyone knows each other. It's it's kind of a mini community and everyone has each other's backs and everyone knows everything. So like you cannot keep a secret in this town because someone's gonna find out, and then it travels like a wildfire of everyone knowing your business and everyone figuring out everything. So that was probably my favorite part of this whole book. I don't know who the second book follows or like what goes on in that, but I'm so excited to pick it up. And the cover, let's just talk about it for a second, guys. That cover for that book, I'm very excited for it because I've been dying to own it, but obviously I couldn't buy it until I finished this book. So I was so happy that I ended up reading this and starting another series, but one that I'm definitely excited to continue. And on a side note, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, because of the length of this book and because of how chunky it was, I tried reading it as a physical copy, but genuinely I just felt like I was getting nowhere. I kept putting the book down. I just don't know, it was a weird feeling with this one. So I did actually read it on my Kindle because it is on Kindle Unlimited, and I binged it in 2 days, a 520 page book. So that is just proof that reading on your Kindle, it not only makes you read faster, but it helps you kind of not see where you are, like how far you actually are in the book, so then you just binge it. Because I know if I continued reading this physically, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere anytime soon. I just don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a weird thing about me and reading, but just a little tip for you guys in case you're kind of intimidated by a book's length. And last thing that I really enjoyed in this book, I kind of already touched on it, but the tropes as a whole, it was pretty spicy. There was a lot of spice in it, especially with 520 pages. Like, you're getting a lot of spice, especially towards the second half of the book, but you do have enemies to lovers and kind of second chance because they knew each other before. They did have a little bit of attraction before, but it wasn't like full on relationship, you know? So I would say enemies to lovers, second chance sort of, and obviously kind of childhood enemies to lovers, if that's a trope. And the small town, obviously. If you like those tropes and you like Lauren Asher, you're dying to give Lauren Asher a try because of how popular she is, I would recommend this series. The second audiobook that I listened to this month was The Mountain Is You by Brianna something. I don't remember her name right now, but it's Brianna something. This one is very popular. If you guys are kind of in the self-help world or community where you gravitate towards those books and stuff, this one is definitely pretty talked about. It's pretty popular. I've been dying to read this for a long time now, but if you know me, nonfiction books, self-help books, business books, I say I want to read them all the time. I have the interest, I just don't actually prioritize them or give them really a chance. But this one, I saw that it was included in my Spotify Premium for audiobooks, so I was like, okay, maybe it's actually time to give this a try. And I was really happy that I did, because this one was literally calling me out on so many things. Like, I felt like this one was just so relatable to me and my brain and my mindset of how I kind of think, or whenever I have that self-doubt, it was literally explaining me to a T, which was perfect for me, because it's one thing to think that self-doubt about yourself and have it in your head, but it's another thing for someone else to say it out loud, so then you don't feel alone, or you don't feel like you're the only one thinking these things and thinking that you're kind of crazy, or if these things are actually happening, you know? So I rated this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Yes, it is a self-help book. Yes, I don't really know how I should be rating those, but that rating genuinely came from how much it resonated with me and how much I was able to learn from it, because you genuinely are deep diving into self-sabotage. And for me, I don't want to get too personal with you guys here, but self-sabotage is one of my biggest things that I struggle with. If you've ever heard the saying of you are your worst critic or you are your worst enemy, that is this book explained, but taking that and explaining why that is and ways to get away from that, because genuinely it does take a toll on you and your mindset and the things that you're passionate for. So that, in my opinion, was so freaking powerful, because I learned how to take that self-sabotage and turn it into self-mastery, which is in the title itself. It gave me like real life examples and kind of explanations that dig a little bit deeper than just the surface, but then it goes into like the psychological reasonings behind it and kind of the external factors that can contribute to why you're thinking this way or why you have this mindset. So I don't want to explain too much, because from what I've found in self-help books is that they're going to be telling you something and you're going to be reading something, but people have a different way of taking that information to relate it to themselves. So that's just what I took from it and what I learned based off listening to the text. But just overall, if you have any thoughts of self-doubt, or you struggle with thinking if you're on the right path, or thinking if you're doing this okay, or thinking that you're good enough to take this step to try something or do something, then I would highly recommend this, because it was absolute perfection. And now I feel more motivated to pick up more self-help books or books similar to this because of how much this one resonated with me. And then the last book that I actually finished this morning was All In by Emma Scott. It's still on my Kindle because I haven't chosen a new book, but this is the second one out of the duet that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So we have Full Tilt and then All In. This is kind of the continuation of it because after finishing Full Tilt, I was absolutely broken. I was like, I need a continuation. I need to know what's gonna happen to these characters. I need to know, do they get a happy ending, you know? So I did just finish this book, and honestly guys, I was kind of disappointed. I was let down. I feel like I can't really talk to you guys about it because I don't want to give any spoilers from the first one, and because the first one does end on that cliffhanger and you literally thinking like, what the heck is happening? So I feel like I can't tell you guys anything, but maybe based on the rating you will know my disappointment because I rated it 3 out of 5. We had the first book at a 5 out of 5, you guys. That's crazy. And then the second book being a 3 out of 5. What happened? I wish I could tell you, but unless you read the series, maybe you will feel the same way, because I feel like the disappointment just came with where the author took the second book. I was not expecting her to take that route, especially for the characters. I just felt like it could have went so many different ways and ended a lot better than it did. Like, I feel like the characters just deserve so much more. They had so much potential, and I feel like the author just took their lives in a completely different way that didn't need to. I know that probably doesn't make any sense because you guys are so lost and you guys don't know the characters, but in my opinion, I just wasn't happy with the direction the author took it. Which obviously maybe is a me problem, like maybe that's just my preference, and maybe deep down because I was just angry at the author for taking it in that direction, but I don't know. It just was so different than the first book, and that's what made me so upset. So obviously I can't tell you guys about the second book, but you can take my word for it. Please pick up the first one. The second one, if you want the answers, obviously read it, but just have the expectation that it's not gonna be as good as the first. And you're just gonna be extremely confused by reading the second one because you're like, wow, why did this happen? What made the author feel like that was what we were gonna do? You know? It was such a disappointment, especially with how much I loved the first one. I feel like we kind of need a third book. Like, we kind of need the answers. After even finishing the second one, we just need more of that. We're like, okay, so that was a shocker, and I still don't really believe that this is what's happening. So give me another book so then we can actually wrap it up and I can feel that closure that I need from this little mini duet, you know? I don't know. It was just very random. I'm happy that I ended up reading the second book, but again, it was such a letdown that I kind of regret it. I'm just very in between about this duet now, with the first one being, oh my god, I love this so much, and the second one just being like, what the heck did I just read? I am so disappointed. It's just kind of random and kind of a disappointing way to end off our month, but you know what? That's okay because we can't win them all. And I still feel like Emma Scott is such an underrated author. I already saved 2 other books and 1 other series by her that I'm very excited to pick up. So hopefully maybe she'll be able to redeem herself, because this one wasn't terrible. It just kind of fell off a little bit. But those are officially all the books that we ended up reading in September. Like I said, kind of a crazy month, but kind of a good month at the same time. I definitely found some new favorites and definitely kind of went out of my comfort zone with genres and different authors, or just books in general that aren't really talked about. I feel like it's very easy to get caught up in book talk and wanting to read the most popular books and listen to what everyone else has to say about these popular books and then get your own opinions. I love doing that, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel like those books can get really repetitive, so I try to pick up some underrated ones just to try, just to see maybe if they should be hyped up and just aren't. So I hope you guys got some recommendations that you haven't really seen other people talk about. I just love giving you guys something new. But let me know what you guys ended up reading in September. I'd love to know what you guys have been picking up. Give me some underrated books too that I maybe have never heard of, and maybe other authors that you guys really enjoy that I could check out, maybe discover. And also, while you're down there, don't forget to check out my Patreon and join my Patreon family. We have so much fun over there, you guys. We are going to be picking our October read that we read over on my book club over there. You don't want to miss out on that. Come read with us, come chill with us, come join that family. It's just so much fun. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff you guys know how to do. And obviously, don't forget to have an amazing, wonderful day today. Bye! It's okay, I'm okay. Had them in the first place. It's okay, I'm okay. It's okay, I'm okay. You can have them anyway. Okay, dance party over. I love listening to music. It's actually a problem. My foot is gonna fall asleep. I just know it with how I'm sitting. It's just gonna fall asleep. It's gonna happen. This fruit fly, she takes lots of risks. She takes lots. Oh my gosh. What did I rate this? We need to get our words together, Gianna. You've been talking for 18 minutes.